So there was that, and then Makina's boob, it says "click me" when she goes to push it.
Yeah.
And I'm just, God,
Well, where else are you gonna click
I
her?
know this. It was, I,
Welcome to the Macross Delta Recap Show, episode 17. This is EXO, along with the magical girl that's about to go on a 2-week secret mission to Voldor, Celia.
hello.
I blew it for you, Celia. Sorry.
Ah, dang it.
And the mecha expert that just recovered from his massive nosebleed watching episode 17, Chad.
Hey, everybody.
All right, episode 17, Scatter on Stage. We get an opening that's narrated by Royd this time. It's pretty
Yeah.
interesting. He goes about comparing the Earthlings to how long they live and how unfair that was. Their whole point is to conquer the galaxy and analyze protoculture so they could unlock the chains of fate, as he calls it, which is hopefully for them, it's to free them from the 30-year, I don't know, expiration date.
Yeah, it was weird actually. It was a very weird way to open an episode. To be honest, I was a little worried when I first watched the thing. It almost felt like like this was going to be a bottle episode, and I was like, God, please don't do this. But yeah, as it went on, like more actual like new, like current episode footage started appearing, and so I was like, okay, thank God this isn't going to be this. But I don't know if there were something with the subs, but I mean the what they said and the way they said it in the subs that I was reading almost made it sound like all the other humanoid races, like not just the Windermerians, but other humanoid races like
Yeah,
Solans, for example, and stuff like that, also have shorter lifespans compared to humans.
that's what he made it sound like, yeah.
And I was like, that isn't a thing as far as I know, but okay.
Well, we see later on that there's older Rognans.
Yeah, there's older Rognans, so that can't be exactly right either. So I think it might have been something funky with the subs, but yeah, it was weird, very weird. But it was interesting actually. I like the fact that it was Royd who was narrating because he is kind of like running the show at this point, like not just figuratively the in-universe anime itself, but also like his decisions are sort of driving the plot right now in the Macross Delta TV series.
Yeah.
Um, and it was interesting to open with him on it. I was curious to know exactly, where he was going with this and what he was thinking and what he was talking about. And we didn't get too much like more insight or anything like that than we knew already. All we do get is like an up to speed, like it's almost like it's bringing the audience up to speed and like saying, okay, Royd is in charge. He's the only one who apparently knows Gramia's final words, blah blah blah, and his friend from the Epsilon Foundation
Belger.
is Belger, is still helping him out to uncover more secrets of the protoculture, which they were obviously going to use to do some very nasty things.
I thought it was a nice way to give us just a peek into what Royd's actual motive is. Because we all know already, at least people who saw the episode where Gromia died, that Gromia didn't actually ever say anything to Royd about expanding outward into the galaxy, and that Royd is basically taking advantage of the situation. And I thought it was, I guess, a unique way to introduce that, to be able to say, well, basically implying that Royd's been studying protoculture because he doesn't like that Windermerians live such short lives, even though they're so powerful, and he views them as almost kind of a, I guess almost as like a master race of the protoculture descendants, because he thinks that they're like the direct heirs to the protoculture anyways, and it really bothers him that they don't live very long even though they're so great. And I'm not sure how I feel about that as a motivation for him yet. I think I'd have to see a little bit more of it before I decide whether or not I like it. But the presentation was interesting.
After we see Bogue and the twins check out the new 262s, we see Qasim and Herman discussing the exact same thing that we're talking about. And it seems like Herman was putting things into Qasim's head.
Actually, so I don't know if you guys are familiar with this meme, but there's a meme of like Kermit the Frog sipping Lipton tea that people use when they're like, well, I don't want to start drama, but when you're sipping on tea, basically in like meme speak, it's when you're like stirring the pot, but you're not really like the actual source of the drama. You're just kind of poking at it.
Uh-huh.
And that's the vibe that I got from Herman in this scene, where he's like reminding Quasim of his duty, but then he's all like, but hey, Royd's the only one who heard it, just to kind of put that idea out there.
I don't think that's. I don't know. Yeah, maybe, but I don't really see that because that's kind of Herman's character. He's always been that sort of like wiser kind of, older mentor of the the Knights of Windermere, who is sort of like just always interjected that point and said, "Oh, well, he's right about that one," sort of thing. It's just like it's not necessarily stirring the pot. That's just that's him sort of like saying, "Yeah, I told you so," or "I knew that one," why didn't
Hmm.
you? Why didn't you? Kind of thing. That's Herman has always kind of been like that, and I guess it's his way of like. I think it's his way of influencing people because he doesn't really it's not like he says all that much or he leads all that much. But he just wants to make like I think he's one of those characters. The archetype is to make people consider your words more profoundly by saying fewer of them and just choosing the best time to say them.
It seemed like there was a reaction from Cossum.
Yeah,
Like,
his eyes
what
got
are you
really
trying to
big.
say? Yeah, to me, he was trying to plant a seed in there.
Really?
But we'll see. We'll see.
Hmm.
I mean, that's an opinion.
I wonder
But it
if he
is
did it for
something like
Cossum though.
they've sort of they've sort of suggested this before though, right? Haven't they? Like that whole issue where you see the older knights are taking a different stance when it comes to somebody like Royd than the younger knights are, right? That's not relegated to just Herman. That's like Keith and Cosm as well. They sort of don't look at Royd in the same way as the younger knights do, like Bogue and the twins, who like seem to like just be in awe of Royd and think he's the best thing ever.
Yeah.
Both of you guys touched upon the next scene with Royd and Belger.
They're still continuing to analyze the protoculture heritage and the sugar valence. I think the thing that stood out to me is that when Belger's talking to Royd, that he says, I would like field data after the analysis is complete. So they're close enough that he's already asking for Royd to give him feedback, which means that we're probably higher than the 60% we were probably about 3 episodes ago.
Yeah.
Also Royd has like the best video setup while he's like
Yeah.
analyzing the fold waves, and he's got this like giant projection of multiple screens of Walkure, playing, and he's yeah, that was just before they cut to it. It was the glasses case, and then that. So I found it just a little humorous instead of like the serious studying the enemy scene that it's supposed to be.
We got to get some Royd eyeglass porn in every episode now, it seems.
I'm waiting for like the officially released glasses. Like how like Evangelion did that with like the official character glasses. Macross has got to do it now. We need a series of like Royd glasses.
Gendo and his glasses, so we need Royd and his.
You too could have your very own battle glasses.
We go into the Delta team and they're having a meeting about going back into Voldor. And when they talked about Voldor, everybody kind of got this uneasy feeling, and they flash back to Messer and how they were trapped in the underground parts of Voldor. Yeah, and then I think it was Chuck that brought up the fact that it would be heightened security now at Voldor because the last time they were there, Arrett brings up the plan about the big walk-here distraction.
Because it's so difficult now to get into Voldor because their previous sort of, I guess, insurrection in there was sort of discovered, and now like security is that much tighter, I guess. So they need something big and bombastic as a distraction, so that everybody is busy watching that instead of handling security. I guess. Not really sure how that translates, but yeah, I guess it's in the universe of Macross, it's a strategy that can work. That's their plan, is to get Valkyrie to sort of like create this massive bombastic performance and just spread it like wildfire using the Galaxy network, because it's still up as we learned. I think it was like last episode or the episode before. The Galaxy network is still up and running, and so I think that is their plan, and it's I guess it's not a bad one, but it's interesting that they're going back to that particular place. I'm not really sure why.
Ara does say why they chose Voldor. And he says because they have an in with Cat Dad, the pilot the ace pilot from Voldor.
Yeah, but
The
Um,
Rosabal.
yeah, Lorazabal. So they have an in with him, and he also said that based on reports from what Lorazabal has been telling him, is that Windermere has been withdrawing their garrison from the planet. So security is going to be tighter for them. Like they can't hack into it the way they did, but there isn't going to be as much of a military presence, which is why they decided to go back to Voldor in the first place. Even though no one really
okay.
wanted to, because that's where like they first found out that Messer was infected with the VAR. and there just aren't very good memories associated with that planet, but it seems like it's the most advantageous because they don't really have any other connections in any of the other planets at this point.
Okay.
They probably just want to sell more kitty costume toys.
Probably.
How'd you like the plan, Celia?
Which one, though? Wait, which one?
The Walk Your concert
Oh
plan.
my god. I lost it when Machina says, "It's time to click," and she pushes her boob. I was like, what the fuck is going on? Okay, so first of all, the Valkyrie costumes were Valkyrie, which is the word Valkyrie. All right, and they come out in their literal Norse Valkyrie costumes.
Yeah.
Which was really awesome. I thought that was great. Also, note on that, Mikumo, even with their holographic technology that's explained in the specials for the Blu-ray Volume 1, still chooses to have a naked boob. I did not notice that. I didn't notice it until I was going back through my screen caps. And like people on Twitter were like responding, like pinging back at me about the armor, and they're like, "Yeah, it looks so cool." And I stopped to look at Mikumo's, and even with the holographic technology, she only has one breastplate,
Yeah.
and the other one is just conveniently covered by her hair. And I'm like, "Oh my god, this episode!" I will say, if I had to choose between the fan service with Hayate and Mirage and the fan service with Machina in this episode, I would definitely pick the fan service with Machina. Because at the very least, the fan service with Machina made me laugh instead of just being like, what the fuck is going on and why are you doing this? There's
Yeah,
no
it was more.
point.
It was definitely more tongue in cheek in this episode for sure.
Yes, this was
And I
very
mean,
goofy.
they were doing it to sort of get everybody's attention, right? So they were going as broad and over the top as they could, right? It was a big show. It's like they were sort of like, let's put on the biggest production, the most attention grabbing we can get, and we'll use like whatever means we can to do that.
And even the
And
lead up to it was great too. Like where Hayate's like, isn't that a little much? Like when they were talking about, the virus that Reina made. And he's like, isn't that a little much? And then Arad's like, we're not even at the best part. And then that's when it leads into the Valkyrie costumes and then the big live show that's being broadcast across the network and the boob clicking and all that. And that was just a great lead into it. Arad looks so pleased with himself when everything is going off really well.
Yeah, so you don't really see the Machina pictures or clips, in universe, it's clips. You don't see that unless you pay a lot. Because later on we find out that's the part that was kind of disturbing to me was the fact that Reina said, "I'm not a cheap woman."
Oh yeah, that was great.
You're not gonna get to see more unless you pay more. Now it's like, oh my god.
yeah, that was a
Yeah.
bit, yeah. I mean, but that's the whole like idea. I mean, it is what it is, but when you look at it like objectively, it comes across as pretty exploitative. You're like, oh yeah, this is like, especially given the age of some of the people in Valkyrie, you're kind of like, yeah, this is not exactly cool.
God, yeah. This sequence made me laugh a lot. I really liked it.
Yeah, it's like you said last week. Fan service is okay as long as there's a payoff.
Yeah.
Machina got a lot more exposure.
She did. Okay, so the next scene, we see Freya, I guess they're in the green room, and Mikumo mentions that her voice is different, and she gets all flustered and she explains some kind of bullshit explanation to Mikumo, and then she says that Mikumo also has, her voice is also different.
Yeah, that was actually something that was really interesting, more for Mikumo. Like Mikumo teasing her about Hayate, I was actually
Hmm.
kind of expecting, especially after the big show that Freya really put on the last episode.
Hmm.
Her rune is basically like wearing her emotions on her sleeve, and she's already pretty expressive and doesn't really guard her emotions anyways. So it's like, twofold for her. But when she's saying that Mikumo's sound isn't as sparkly and doesn't or rainbow colored anymore, and I remember in the first episode when she does hear Mikumo sing, she recognizes it as a rainbow colored voice. So it's not as brightly colored, and she said it's more fluffy. She uses the onomatopoeia fua fua, and to me that kind of gave more of the impression that like her voice, the color of her voice is either fading or being like hindered or muffled in some way to make it seem fluffier. So something is wrong with Mikumo, and things have been kind of changing for her a little bit anyway since she had those flashback visions of her at
Hmm.
the protoculture base anyways.
Yeah.
So I think this is part of that lead in to I guess, the big reveal about Mikumo.
Yeah, I think that's right. I think pretty much we are gonna hopefully start getting some answers to the mystery that is, Mikumo here pretty soon, which would be nice. It kind of has to, I think, in this point in the game because the plan, at least from Delta Squadron's perspective and Chaos and whatnot, is to start like really delving into those ruins themselves. Like up to this point in the story, they've just been like discovering that maybe there's some connection between them and the protoculture ruins and like Hines and everything else. And Mikumo had that previously when she was on Voldor. She had that sort of like self exploration moment where she was separate from the group and figuring she was trying some things, like she was singing while she was inside the protoculture ruins all by herself, and she obviously got like some sort of reaction to it. So I think that in order for them to sort of move this story forward, at least from a writing perspective, they'll have to definitely like start giving us a few more answers about who Makumo is and whatnot. And I think that's definitely coming because they talk an awful lot about Makumo in this episode. Specifically, that she doesn't have any parents and she doesn't really care about the past. Knows that she wants to sing, kind of thing, right? And that's like, okay, that means that they're telling you this because they're setting it up for a reveal later, right? So yeah, so I think and that's actually the most we've learned about Mikumo, I think, ever, like anything concrete. Like the whole birthday thing was sort of like a hint, but now like comes like the real details, and that she doesn't have any parents and she doesn't remember anything. All she knows is that she wants to sing. So it's weird, like it's strange. It could go in a bunch of different directions, and I'm not really sure I understand exactly what Makumo might be. Like, is she a part of like everything in the Brisinger cluster, or are the things that we're about to learn about her in the next few episodes, are they going to reveal maybe Lady M or like some other parts of Macross Delta's backstory that we haven't been told everything about yet? So I'm not really sure. I'm kind of excited because I don't know which way it's going to go.
Yeah, it's actually like a theory from one of our viewers, and it seemed like a pretty good theory. The thing about is she part of the whole Brisinger cluster? So I think you guys might be on to something. But now it's confirmed that Mikumo doesn't have memories of who she is, I guess, before Delta or Walk here. I don't even know how far back it goes, but that seems interesting. I wonder if they're going to get into that.
And she finally seems to have another expression besides smug. Like, I mean, Mikumo for the most part has been pretty confident in what she's doing and really hasn't like expressed any other emotions so far.
Hmm.
And she already does weird stuff anyways. So when I watched the Raw and like Machina Rainer saying, that Mikumo's acting weird, I was like, well, no, duh. I mean, she does weird shit all the time. But for the members of Valkyrie to be saying, wow, something's wrong with Mikumo, like this is
Yeah.
very deeply bothering her since that birthday episode. And I don't think I've ever seen her be bothered by anything so far in the series.
So Freya goes on stage and does her solo, and Machina and Rainer watching her, and one of them says that her rune is shining too brightly. That was Reina. And then Machina says, of course, after Hayate's gift, like they kind of expect that. Yeah, and then we go into a Machina solo, and Freya's sitting somewhere backstage, and Hayate joins her. And then this is the scene that everybody's talking about online. It seems like Freya was about to confess something, and then they get rudely interrupted, which pissed everybody off.
Yes.
Um,
God. Okay. So starting back with Freya's solo, Hayate literally falls. Like I actually thought that was a really like while he was listening to her music. I thought what was interesting about that is before they were riding the wind together, but
mhm.
this time like Freya is basically on an emotional high right now. And I mean rightfully so, I would say. And because of that, she's not really controlling her rune as much. And Hayate, instead of riding the wind with her, is kind of getting caught up in it. Like when Keith was trying to ride the wind while Freya was singing, he wasn't as in control of it as he was when he was riding his own wind. And that kind of happened to Hayate almost during that sequence. And it was actually kind of scary, like where he was doing fine and then suddenly, his vision starts to go in and out and then he's falling through the sky. much in the way that Hines and Keith did during, I think,
Yeah.
episode 13. So that was like really cool. And I think that, and then, further information that's revealed in the episode will definitely add some rockiness to their current relationship. The confession scene made me so mad when I first watched it. I watched it without subs and I knew it was coming. I could see it in her
Yeah.
body language. And then the old lady ruined it. Freya was about to confess. The triangle was finally about to move forward. Someone was going to do something about their feelings. And then the old lady interrupts it. I was so mad when I first watched it. An old lady cock blocking everybody. Oh god. And like it kind of led up into like almost an awkward situation then after that, because she's like, I've never seen old people before. They look so happy. I'm like, wow, that's a really nice way to cover yourself there, Freya. That's real smooth. It was very good. Like I'm not like rooting for any one person in particular, but the tension leading up to the potential of her confession was had me engaged so deeply that when the old lady did ruin it, that I was very frustrated at the end of it. But I liked it. That was a good sequence.
What about you, Chad? Do you like it?
Yeah, I guess. I mean, it just again, it's like it doesn't really do anything for the love triangle overall, except establish that now there's the emotional stakes are getting higher and higher, I guess. Because I think more of the characters, at least especially Hayate, is now starting to get into it, like at least invested. Like he's been made aware because of the actions of Mirage and the other characters in the previous episode. Hayate is now starting to actually look at some of the other people in the love triangle, like Freya, like for the first time with like actual like real affection, like coming to terms. Maybe it was always there, and he just wasn't like he just wasn't bothering with it, but. I think it's like more about how he's like understanding what those feelings actually mean. So I think it's good in that we're getting a little bit more, but again, I'd have to agree with Cecilia and just say this isn't. We're gonna get something here, maybe a little bit too much in one fell swoop, but still, I mean, it would have been nice to get some movement on this. I didn't hate it or anything, but it's also I'm not too excited about it. Just
That damn
overall,
old lady.
Stupid
those damn
wrinklians or whatever she called them
those
on the sub.
wrinkled folks. Yeah, those damn Rognans at the helm. God.
No, I actually when I watched the Raws, I actually hated the old people. I was like, but like you felt it coming. Like you knew that they were gonna get interrupted. But after the subs, I ended up liking the scene a lot more because of what they talked about. It just makes sense, and it is a question that's in everybody's mind as far as the audience about Freya and her lifespan. And it makes sense that they tackle it, as far as conversation. What are they going to do? Because she's only going to be there for so long. And then when she mentions Hayate's mom, and then he's kind of like, it's only a couple of years. Like her rune just goes super dark and like just turns off. So, and also there was that scene with Mirage in the backstage and how she was just like so hurt, like because she could just see how Hayate was now into Freya. Yeah, I think
Yeah.
I liked it. I might have liked it a lot more than you guys, maybe.
I liked it because it got the reaction that it was supposed to get out of me from it. Like that anticipation, like here it comes, and then the frustration of no, it's not happening. And at least for me, I feel like that was successful, which is why I like it, because I think that's
Mhm.
the response that they were going for. It still doesn't move our triangle forward, which is my biggest gripe with it, because it has to go somewhere at some point. So it was, I mean, I still liked it as a sequence, even when I didn't like, even though it was making me frustrated, but I think it's because it accomplished what it was supposed to when I watched it.
It's an episode about frustration.
Yeah.
Speaking of, we see the Winnemerians watching the Walkure concert, and they get caught by Bogue.
Best scene. Best scene in the entire episode. I'm calling
Oh,
it
I
right
gotta I
now.
gotta chime in on this one because this was something that we've talked about in previous episodes, how we felt that Bogue was like a closet fan of Valkyrie, and this definitely, in my mind at least, this has definitely sealed the deal.
Yeah.
He is clearly embarrassed by finding them. Well, he's mad at them finding his fellow soldiers watching Walkyrie and their evil propaganda, and then once he handles it himself, he starts getting embarrassed because he actually likes it. That's why. There's no other reason to explain why he would be embarrassed, and then he's trying to shut it off and can't figure out how to shut it off, and his embarrassment of course is growing on like now on multiple levels. And yeah, it's just like this guy he clearly wants like nothing more than to listen to Walkyrie music for the rest of his life. That's what he wants the most. And the reason that Bogue is so angry is because he's repressed.
Oh,
Yeah.
I agree.
That's
That
it.
was
And it was
so good.
glorious. It
Like
was a
it was
great
so
sequence. It's
good.
probably one of the best, like the best executed scenes of comedy in the Macross Delta series so far. And that's saying quite a bit because we've had like quite a few really funny moments in Macross Delta that have like genuinely hilarious dialogue and just genuinely funny like comedy that just that didn't have to try too hard. It was funny and was laugh out loud funny. And so yeah, I think for me anyway, this was one of the best ones. I just like, yep, that's my boy Bogue.
God, it was so great. He got so flustered by the hologram and he's mad and he's embarrassed at the same time and his runes are flashing. Like just the whole visual setup for it was great. And then I love that he funds the enemy because he can't figure out how to turn off the stupid machine. So he's pushing the money button and sends them like 700 something currency. Like that was just, it was such a great sequence. It's my favorite scene in this entire episode.
There's also like I think an attraction element to it as well because there is one brief flash where when Bogue is just flustered trying to shut everything off, a picture of Reyna's waist appears, and Bogue is just like taken, like totally taken with it, and also like taken aback at how much he's like revealing to everybody around him that he likes her. And yeah, it was a great little moment, sort of almost something that shows his age as well. Something that shows that he is sort of like he's a young guy and his hormones are obviously raging. And yeah, in addition to liking their music, he just likes the Walkyrie girls as well.
That's my favorite screen cap where Bogue is just looking totally like taken aback by Reyna's butt.
Part of me suspects that that wasn't an accident, that he actually likes Reina. He's like, "Oh, how do you shut this off?" And then he's like pushing that one button, and makes Reina like explode onto the screen. And I'm like, maybe he prefers Reina over Freya,
Bogue's a Reyna stan. He just doesn't know it yet.
because that was a weird choice. But yeah, and yeah, you're right. That was like a big payoff for us because we talked about him being a fan.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
I'm not sure if that made it to the show or if that was in one of the extended audio that we had.
Oh, really?
But
Oh, okay.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure. I don't know because we kind of spent like a long time talking about that, and I
We
was like,
did,
oh,
yes, yes. We might have had to have cut it, but yeah. Well, it's as long as we remember, that's the point. It's just yeah, it's fun. It was yeah,
as long
it's
as we were right.
no, I don't mind being wrong or anything about these theories. That like half the fun of watching the show is coming up with these, I guess, these crackpot theories about where this is going to go and what's going to happen. So, but I think we've been doing pretty well so far. I think we've caught quite a few of the major revelations of the show before they actually happen. So I'm pretty proud with our track record. But
Yeah.
yeah, some of them I've been way off base on, and that's okay too. It's like I said, it's all part of the fun.
Well, speaking of being right on with the theory, they finally successfully hack the security of Voldor and they launch the Aether towards the planet. During the launch, Hayate runs into Robert Kino, and they have like this awkward conversation. So Hayate decides to confront Arid. They're having their meeting, and he did it right in front of everybody. And Arid reveals that his dad, Right Immelman, dropped the bomb on Windermere.
Yeah, well, we knew something like this was coming, obviously, and I suspected we had talked about in a previous episode about how it had to for Kino to have that sort of reaction, it had to have been something really disastrous. And I think it was Cecilia who mentioned maybe that it was linked to the dropping of the reaction bomb. Or the dimensional bomb, maybe, and I think that's yeah, I think that was kind of like the going theory at the time because it's just like it had to be something really really bad. Like it couldn't be just he ran away with a starship or like turned traitor wouldn't have elicited that kind of reaction from Kino. Right? It had to be something absolutely devastating. And at this point in the story, the only really devastating thing that we knew about the Independence War 7 years ago was the dropping of that bomb. So yeah, so now we know that that is in fact the case. And it was a pretty huge reveal. I found it interesting how Hayate, how he didn't like, he was sort of upset and just really wanted to know and was like not getting anything out of Kino, and I guess just decided to take out his frustrations on Arid, and just wasn't going to let him go until he got what he wanted out of Arid. So he just like really got mad at him and confronted him in front of everybody. And Kaname was actually going to get everybody else out of there so that Arid and Hayate could just have the discussion in private. But I guess Arid was like, nope, we're not going to do that. It's going to be here and now, sort of thing. So yeah, they revealed it, and yeah, he's just like so mad about it, the whole affair, and just doesn't know what to do. And I can't say that I blame him. It's really like, what do you say or think, or how do you start to process something like that? So it's a huge moment for Hayate, and I think as the rest of the episode shows, he's gonna take a while to get through this and process it. But yeah, it'll be good actually. This is a good bit of character work for Hayate, and I'm glad that it's come out in this way. It's something interesting and just something very 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 impactful. I'm also glad that it came out in this way because I think I mentioned one of our last two episodes. I think I was talking about how I was kind of worried that it was going to come out like the secret about Wright Immelman was going to come out in some sort of way that was going to be a huge like disadvantage to them. Like it was going to be like maybe one of the Windermerian Knights was going to reveal it to Hayate and just like really mess things up in like the middle of a critical moment or something. And I'm really kind of glad that it didn't turn out that way because this is a little bit more interesting. It's a little bit more original, and it allowed for like a lot more like of a personal conflict between Hayate and Arad, which is something that I think we'll probably see a little bit more of going forward. At least I hope we do. I hope we get a little bit of payoff between that because there's definitely tension between them now because of that. But yeah, it played out better than I was hoping. The whole idea of like somebody else dropping the bomb on Hayate at a critical moment, especially an enemy, would have been way too cliche, I think. So I'm glad that they did it in this way.
Well, and really, it fits in with the way that Arid has been keeping secrets so far in the show, anyways. Like, remember with Messer, he wasn't entirely honest, anyways, and he kept it to himself. I mean, I thought at first that was by Messer's request, but and he had dropped hints before, like, oh yeah, I knew your dad in passing, like really, like not telling the full truth until he gets to this point where Hayate is like, what is going on? I want to know what happened with my dad. Clearly, Kino knows who he is, and you know who he is, so I want the full truth where he's really pushing him to that. And I would like to see in the future episodes where Hayate kind of has to rebuild his trust with Arid. This is the second instance where Arid has kept information from him. And with Messer, that's his personal information and he respected that. But this time it has to do with Hayate's dad and the fact that he stole a warhead from New UN Spacey and bombed the nuns' base with it. Even if you just think about it on that level, not even considering that it's during the War for Independence for the Windermerians and that he was doing it to stop nuns from continuing the war, that's a really big piece of information that Arad really should have shared with Hayate much earlier. But I think for dramatic effect, it worked really, really well here. And it was actually revealed like in a way that I wasn't anticipating because I figured that his dad had something to do with the Windermerians. I didn't think he would go so far as to steal a warhead and bomb the new unified government. Like that was a plot twist I wasn't expecting.
Yeah, this is something that I've been saying for a long time that it was Wright Immelman that dropped the bomb. And I have another theory about why he did it. I don't know if we should get into it. If I'm right, I don't want to put it out there as a spoiler. But yeah, it makes sense to me that it was him. It also reminds me of somebody, one of our viewers said that it might have been Wright Immelman that gave Freya her music device. Before I was kind of like, oh, that's too many coincidences. But now I'm, ever since, well, this comes up later in another scene. Ard says that he plays with the kids, and they were around Hayata's age. So it might be just another fan theory that's probably gonna become true. I don't know how big of a deal that would be, but it would be pretty amazing that like a lot of these things that the fans are suspecting. I mean, it's not so much that they're predictable, but that's kind of a random prediction. Like, oh, Hayate's dad is the one that gave Freya her music device.
Yeah, it could be the point that brings them back together because now that they know that it was Hayate's father who dropped that dimensional weapon, which based on Freya's flashbacks, we know she was at least present at the time that that happened.
Yeah.
That's going to drive a wedge between her and Hayate. His father destroyed part of her planet, and
Hmm.
the news that Hayate's father dropped the bomb and destroyed part of Freya's planet is going to drive a wedge between them. Yes, they just had this moment of closeness with her birthday and the present that he got for her, and Freya, but now like the look of horror on Freya's face is telling me there's going to be some conflict between the two of them for probably the next couple episodes. But Hayate's father giving her the music player might be the piece that kind of brings them back to like a peaceful resolution, without Freya feeling so betrayed and Hayate feeling betrayed, honestly, by Arid, not knowing that information from the start. Even if Right Imamon was doing it for the correct reasons, at least that he felt was right to help the Windermerians and stop the new unified government from destroying the planet or retaking it, he did a lot of damage, and that affected Freya personally. So I would like to see conflict between Ard and Hayate and between Freya and Hayate in the next couple episodes because they're going to have to do some rebuilding of those relationships to get them back to at least where they were at the beginning of the series. I would think, anyways.
Yeah, that's twice that Hayate managed to make Freya's rune go dark this episode.
Yeah. What a jerk.
She's just screwing it up. Yeah, I wish I could remember the fan that said that about the music device.
Oh, the subs, and this is what the sub said, so I don't know if this is the actual dialogue, but it was also noted that dimensional weapons were forbidden by treaties, and nuns violated those treaties by bringing that one with them anyways, even if it was in secret. Because Arad said that the warhead that Wright stole was off the books. It
Yeah,
wasn't
they didn't
listed in their
even. Yeah, it
inventory.
wasn't even listed as something that they had. Yeah.
So they were prepared to use it at some point, and he took it before they could and decided to use it on them. Still a lot of collateral damage, but this is not looking
Just,
good for a new
just
unified government.
Yeah, but there was some a small little added bonus of that whole sequence when they were revealing the thing about Right Immelman to Hayate, and that we got to see just a few glimpses more of the VF-22 Sturmvogel, and I just have to mention it because it's such a mecha geeky thing to see. It's the nice little callback to like a classic Macross design, and it is really nice to see it in action. Only maybe we didn't even see it in action. We just get to see glimpses of it a little bit more. But it is some modern animated pictures of the treasured Macross mechanical design. So that was fun. I enjoyed that as well.
Are you gonna buy the VF-22 with the nuns marking? Is that what you're saying?
I might, I could be convinced.
All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and spill theory
Do it.
because somebody else is gonna come up with it, and I'll be like,
Exactly.
"Oh
You're
man,
like,
god damn it,
that
that
was
was
mine. That
mine!"
was mine.
Right, Immelman is the first victim of the VAR, and it was mind control. That's my theory. Trademark XO 2016.
Oh, dude, everybody knows that. We just didn't tell you.
Oh man, how dare you! I feel like Hayate. Arid.
No, that's actually not a bad theory. That's interesting. I didn't think about that one. That could be kind of cool. Yeah.
That's the only thing I could think of. Mind control.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we get this little scene at the end with Chuck and Mirage in the elevator.
So after Ara drops the big bombshell about Right Imamon, Chuck and Mirage are in the elevator after everyone kind of disperses, and Chuck is, I think, kind of foreshadowing and talking to the audience, where he's talking about how it's better to forgive past offenses and to welcome peace instead of holding grudges and going to war for the sake of the country. And he talks about like his own perspective as a Rognan, where he says, yes, Ragna's a colony, but we don't hold any grudges because, there's no point in us looking back all the time. We need to move forward, and it's better to embrace peace instead of fighting for something that we don't have anymore. And Ragna's been colonized for like 30 years, so Chuck's probably like, well, this is just the way it is, and we're just gonna keep going with it, and it works for us. And he's
Yeah.
kind of trying to understand like why people would go to war for that, and that's kind of Chuck's mindset, anyways. Is he's more of a laid back, really non-confrontational guy. I don't think I've seen really any sequences in the show where he's been confrontational.
Yeah, this particular scene with Mirage and Chuck was interesting in that I think it sort of maybe, in addition to like giving, I guess, the Rognan perspective on the new unified government and the humans in particular, I think it also shows maybe a few cracks in the Windermerians like propaganda again, in that here they are like waging this massive war that, and they're now, under Royd's command, they're prepared to take it all the way and create like a galaxy-wide conflict instead of something just in the Brissinger cluster. But they're willing to start this whole war and like cost like thousands and tens of thousands, maybe even more lives in this massive conflict for something that it seems like the Rognans suffered probably something similar and just didn't really decide to go that violent with it, with their reaction to it. And they just embraced peace rather than, had some sort of big problem or issue, and, felt the need to like lash out with armed conflict. So I'm not necessarily sure if that says anything profound. It just gives you sort of like a counterpoint to, what the Windermerians are doing. It's like, here's the Rognans, and in their situation, maybe they were like, this, maybe it was a situation similar to the Windermerians, maybe it wasn't, but they just decided to do something different. And it seems to have worked out better for them in the long run anyway than how it's going to probably work out for the Windermerians. So I'm not really sure. Yeah, it's an interesting way to look at it.
I also think it's
Yeah.
kind of like talking to Mirage also, because the scene ends with a close up on Mirage after Chuck says that it's better to move forward and welcome peace. And because Mirage right now, she really is holding a grudge. She's holding on to these bad feelings about what she's seeing with Freya and Hayate. So, yes, I think he's talking about the colony, but I also think for a storytelling, like from a storytelling perspective, it's also being used like to say something about Mirage, that yes, she's feeling pretty awful about what she thinks is happening between Freya and Hayate, but it might be better to let go of the bad feelings and be at peace instead of holding on to that, because you really see her just kind of like lurking in the background a lot in this episode with just a really sour look on her face, when there's really not anything official yet for her to be like completely sad over. I mean, she was pretty upset at Hayate's present for Freya anyways, and the fact that Hayate potentially has feelings for Freya. But that's also what I got out of that sequence too, mostly because it ended with that close shot on Mirage and then the look on her face when she's in the elevator.
Yeah, that's something I really disagree with as far as what Chuck said. Like that's something that you have to let slide.
Oh, he wasn't talking about Hayate and Freya specifically,
No, no,
but
no. I'm talking about the bomb itself. When a government like that you live under does something like that, breaks their own treaty and brings in a really destructive weapon, that's not something that you let slide. That's something that you have to question and put out there as some had something really bad planned. And that does go into what Mirage is feeling. I think it's better for her to face it than just regret not saying anything. So that's the end of the episode, except for the after credit.
It's a post-credit sequence.
that's right. With Cat Dad. Yeah, so in the stinger scene, they're basically just getting ready to head into Voldor. Like everyone's in their pilot suits. Let's see.
Yeah,
Hayate
and
basically
Hayate's
says
sort
like,
of
I
like,
could put my
yeah,
dad on hold. I've got to focus
yeah.
on the mission.
He's got to focus on his mission and stuff like that, but he's gonna figure out the truth one day about what really happened, and and
Mm-hmm.
why his father did that. And then Mirage sort of like, just sort of like backs him up and says that she's there for him if he needs it, and a little bit of a reach out, and then that's it. And then the operation commences, and they descend onto the planet inside their shuttle, and yeah, that's it.
They did they did talk about how Wright Immelman was a weirdo.
Really,
Yeah,
somebody says that?
Yes.
yeah.
When Arit's talking to Hayate, like after he drops this big bombshell, like, yeah, your dad bombed the planet, sorry. And then he comes back to him before they're getting ready to launch the Valkyries. And he's like, well, your dad was kind of strange. He collected rocks and he did stuff that made people just kind of wonder what the hell he was doing. But he played with the kids a lot, probably because he missed you.
Hmm.
I just love that they call Hayate's dad a weirdo. I'm like, wow, he does all the things you do, Hayate.
You couldn't say that like in front of the Delta Squad.
No, he had to redeem himself for Hayate in some way. Like, sorry I told you this really awful thing your dad did without really being honest with you in the beginning. But if it makes you feel any better, your dad was kind of weird. Like,
Yeah, I'm not a big Arid fan.
Like, way to go, Aaron. That's, I don't know if that would make me feel any better. Yeah, I like Makina because she's cute. That's kind of about all she has going for her right now. Sorry, her character design is darling, and I love how she's a gossip monger. But
Yeah.
that's about it. Oh, and she's Raina's girlfriend. There you go. Then that's about it.
How'd you like her song?
Okay, so the songs are produced by two really big like EDM techno producers, the new ones that we have. One of them is produced by Lloyd, who did the soundtrack for the Panty and Stocking series by Gynax, and I love that soundtrack. It is so good. I think he's the one who did Makina's song, and I don't actually know what the name is because I didn't write it down. And I can't remember the other producer. It starts with an R. I want to say it's like Rasmus or something. I can't remember.
Sean Salisbury sent me the video that he's famous for called Me Me Me.
Yes,
Very
Me Me Me.
strange.
He did the Me 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 song, which is also fun. Yes, Teddy Lloyd did that one. He did the Me 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 series. I don't remember if he worked on Daoko Girl, which is the follow up to the Me 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 series. If you like Teddy Lloyd's work, you should listen to Panty and Stocking, like the Panty and Stocking soundtrack, because that'll give
That's
you a
the show
better
that you
idea.
told us about.
Yes, it is.
Yes, yeah. The great title.
Yes, Panty
Yeah.
and Stocking with Garter Belt. Teddy Lloyd did the soundtrack, and if you listen to Makina's song, it sounds kind of like some of the songs that he did for Panty and Stocking, which is what makes me think that he did Makina's solo song. And it was Makina with donuts. Like, it was super cute. It was awesome. But
What's with the donuts?
it's cute. She has cute things. She's got a rabbit motif on her glasses,
Is that
and
a
she's
suggestive thing?
pink. Well, I don't know what's more suggestive than a "click me" tattoo on her boob, and she says "time to click," and she pushes it. I don't know if you can get any more suggestive than that.
I was clicking. I was on my flat screen clicking the button.
God. So
No.
I think that fit really well. Alex, I don't know if you saw my tweet of like my favorite scenery layouts from this episode.
Yeah, I did. Remind me
Where
of
was
your
the
point.
it's the Valkyries and then Freya and then Makina and looking like a
Oh
Dakimakura
yeah.
illustration where she's laid out on the sheet and she's wearing this cute little lingerie set. I like that. That was actually a really nice pinup image.
Yeah, it was. There was a couple with Machina that were really good.
Yeah, it was good. So yeah, that's this one.
All right, well, let's get into. Well, we don't really have a lot of messages. We did have a lot of messages, but almost all of it was answered in this episode. It's about Hayate's dad. There was a lot of discussions about Freya, Hayate, and Mirage, of course. But there was one thing that was mentioned last week, and there's this message from Silent CL, and he or she says, I think there's more to why Mirage cried at the end. No one noticed that it was her birthday before and was asked if she wanted to celebrate Freya's, whom is her love rival. So that's something that came up last week, and I actually did read that, and I watched the subs episode with that in mind, and then it turned out to be not true. It was a mistake. Do you remember that, Celia?
Yeah, I remember that. Someone accidentally transposed the numbers on Mirage's birthday because it's February 11th, but someone accidentally read it as 11 like November 2nd, the day before Freya's birthday, and that posted it in a Facebook group. So that was our bad, not double checking the wiki page, but
I think
it happens.
it was in the wiki page. I checked the compendium afterwards, and that's when I was like, "Oh, this is not right." But it went further than just our group, though. I think they were talking about it in a couple of other groups. I think even the Spanish pages were talking about it, and it's weird. It would have been like a. I was thinking it would probably would have been like a better episode with that as an underlying theme, but nope, it was
Uh,
all wrong.
I don't know if I could handle like Mirage being sad because no one's celebrating her birthday. That would just make everybody in chaos look like a bunch of dicks, to be honest.
But it just no, because they knew about Freya's birthday because of the webpage, and like I said, Mirage doesn't have a webpage, so it's kind of forgivable.
No, Mirage has been with them for a long time.
Nobody knows anybody's birthday. Nobody even knew that Mikumo didn't have a birth date, right? And
But
how long has she been with them?
oh god, yeah, it'd be unforgivable if they didn't remember Mirage's birthday after she's been with them for so long. That would make me actually pretty mad.
Yeah, I would think after the first year, people would start to ask like, "When the hell is your birthday?"
Yeah, basically. But yeah, it's really easy to mix up the numbers anyways because the way that the order of days and months is written differently in Japanese and it's not always in the same order. So it's easy to mix up month and day.
And we actually recorded the show talking about that. And it was, if you guys noticed anything that was awkward about that show, that's because we had to cut out that conversation.
Whoops.
Yeah. So that's it. That's it for the messages. So Celia Rose, where can we find you when you're not on the Macross Delta Recap Show?
You can find me on Facebook at facebook.com/Celia Rose Cosplay and on Twitter at Planets Twinkle. I'm getting a SIM card as soon as I land in Japan, so I'll be posting a lot of updates from where I'm going to be at any given time within the next 2 weeks. Hopefully, hitting up both the Macross Delta stores in Kyoto and Tokyo. So we'll see how that goes.
Cool. And you could post some of that stuff on the Macross Delta page.
Yeah.
And Chad, where can we find you?
You can contact me at marchingcw@hotmail.com. You can, of course, visit my website, the Macross Mecha Manual. And you can also find me on various anime message boards, such as Anime Nation, ANN, and Macross World Forums.
And this is EXO. You could find me on the Macross World Facebook page or the Macross Delta Facebook page. Or you could tweet at me at Macross Tweet, the official Macross World Twitter account. And we'll see you next week for episode 18, Sense Emergence. Bye.